Hi everyone. Today I thought we'll try to get GPT to teach us Python, as much of it as possible in about 20 minutes time. To be able to do that, I'm at OpenAI's playground using Text DaVinci 003. I just kind of reduced the temperature somewhat and write a list of things to learn about Python starting from beginning level, and then we're just gonna get its response. It's gonna give us a list. That's fine for now. So we're gonna take the first one and let me actually go to API. We also have ChatGPT here. We can try that as well. We need to log in. Let me do that. Let's ask, explain. Let's start with ChatGPT. Explain data types for Python, and let's get going, and we'll ask the same thing. Yeah, the usage is pretty heavy with ChatGPT. You can actually give errors like this when it's busy. So then we'll just use OpenAI's playground. Explain basic syntax and data types for Python with example codes. With example code. So it's saying Python is a high-level programming language designed to be easy to read and understand. Its syntax is clear, concise, and well-organized. Language was developed by Guido van Rossum, first released in 1991. Python is a dynamically typed language, meaning you don't need to declare a variable's type before you use it. This allows for rapid development, but can also lead to errors if you're not careful. Basic syntax. Python is a white space sensitive language, meaning that indentation matters. This makes the code easier to read and understand. Here's an example of basic syntax. So here it is defined. So def is used to define a function. Add here is the name of the function. It accepts two arguments, a and b. And then here's a comment, which is used as an explanation. Function to add two numbers, and it returns the value of a plus b, for example. And after that, you can use the print method of Python to actually execute the add function inside of it, and you can give it its arguments like that, and the output will be 5. So we can actually copy this, bring it to Visual Studio Code, and if we run it, let me make this bigger. Okay, let's run it. So as you see, it prints 5. That's good. Let's continue. Data types. Python is a variety of data types, including strings, integers, floats, lists, dictionaries, and tuples. Here's an example of data types. Strings. So string, let's copy this. So string is just, let's comment this out. You can do this by Control/, just to do it quickly. So string is just a series of letters. Really, it's just written language, and we can actually print that string. And if we do that, it will print in the terminal "Hello World." So it's a string. So string is a type of data type, and it has operations that you can perform on it. For example, you can actually split it. So it's recommending string slicing. Let's just slice it. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the 0th element, which is the first element. It starts with 0. It starts from 0 and then to the 5th. So if we were to print it, it will just print hello, because H is the 0th element. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. It actually included the space here, although we can't see it right here. But if we were to say 6, for example, actually made a mistake. The final index is upper bound exclusive, so meaning when you say 6 here, it's actually doing all the way up to the 5th. So when we actually put in 6, it was including the white space, the space. But if we were to say 7, then it's going to include the 6th letter, which is W, for example. Okay, continuing integers. Integers. Let's comment this out. And integers are just numbers, right? If you were to print it, it's assigning int1 variable to 5. If it's printing, then it just prints 5, for example. And if you were to define int2 6, and we can actually print the total of them, which should be 11 right here. Okay, this is good. Let's continue quickly. Floats. So let's let it write out some more. Floats are decimal point numbers, as you can see. 3.14, for example. Integers cannot have decimal points, and then there are lists, which starts and ends with a square bracket, and it's just a list, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this case. Dictionary is written with this curly bracket, and it defines some variable and its associated value. These are called key and value pairs. And we could actually ask it to explain more of it, but let's just get these right here, put it into VS Code. There we go. So we can actually make another, so you can actually add them together. We'll comment these out for now. So we're going to add 3.14 to 2.5. This is going to print. Should be something like 5.64. Here we go. And these numbers are due to how the Python processes floats, decimal point numbers under the trunk. So floats are a type of data, what do we say, data type. So we can print this list. So we can actually just print the list. Let's just do that. We're just going to get 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's commented out. So if you run it, we're just going to get 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can also, as it was suggesting, make a square bracket and put 0 in it, and it will print out the first element. 1 will point out the second element, which should be 2 right here, so on and so forth. And maybe it'll make a suggestion. Or it wants to talk about tuples. And the dictionary, we already have it here, I believe. Yep, it's uncommented. See what it recommends. So it wants to access the name, which is the key here. And if we were to print this, it's going to print its value, just like that. John. It's also still printing 2 because the list is still there. You can also print, say, print the age, and so there's 2 keys, name and age. Now if you print them, so John is 25 years old, right? Just like that. So dictionary is a data type, and let's see what it says. Tuple, tuples. Let's copy this. So the cool thing about tuples, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it can, let's just ask, explain to me what a tuple is. Or, so what I was thinking is, see, maybe you want to know more about tuples. If we can clear this entire text dialog and actually get it to explain tuples here on Playground, but let's try the ChatGPT one more time. See if its traffic has slowed down. Explain to me tuples from Python. No, it's still. They must be really busy. So let's actually cut this out. Explain to me tuples in Python. So you can use it to explain things to you. So you can use this as a learning tool. So tuples are a data structure in Python that acts similar to a list, except that its items cannot be modified once it's created. Tuples are written with parentheses and its items are separated by commas. They are used to store, let's let it continue, a collection of related data, like a list, but are generally used when the collection is not expected to change over time. Tuples are also faster and use less memory than lists, for example. Here you go. Now we have our explanation. Let's actually paste the first one, our first teachings, let's say GPT teachings here. Python is a powerful and versatile language, and these examples only scratch the surface of what it can do. Good. Second, let's move on to control, flow, and loops. See what it does for us. So let me select it, paste it here in Python. Explain control, flow, and loops in Python. Let's see what it does. Let's make this go 200 tokens. Control, flow, and loops are fundamental programming concepts that allow a program to make decisions and execute certain operations multiple times. Control flow is a set of structural commands that allow a program to execute certain lines of code based on conditions or decisions. Examples of control flow commands are if, else, and switch statements. Loops are a set of commands that allow a program to execute certain lines of code multiple times until a certain condition is met. Examples of loop commands are for while loops and do while loops. Let's see, we'll type in give some code examples for each. So it's going to start it with control flow, if statement. If we were to take this, let's comment this out and bring it here. So essentially it's asking if the x, which is not defined right now, or bigger than 0, then print x is positive. If x is less than 0, then print x is negative. Otherwise, in all other conditions, x is equal to 0, because that's what it would be. We haven't defined x, but we can define it right here. We can say if x is, for example, say 1. Now, as you see, the warning has disappeared. And run it. It says x is positive. Because it comes to the first statement, it says if is x over 0, which it is, then it just does this. And then comes else if. So if this if statement is fulfilled, then it doesn't even go to elif. Oh, sorry. So the loop then, the condition is executed. Let's say if it was -1, and if we run it, then it writes x is negative because it checks if x is bigger than 0. This is the symbol to check for that. Greater than sign. So it sees that it's not bigger than 0, so then it goes to the else if statement, which is the elif right here. It asks, is it less than 0? And it understands that it is, and prints x is negative. And it doesn't actually go to else. But if we were to put 0 and run it, it says x is equal to 0, because it checks, is x bigger than 0? No. Else, is x less than 0? It's not. So then else if it checks, and then since neither of these conditions are fulfilled, then it goes and prints x is equal to 0, for example. So this is a cool example for conditional statements. So let's see. So switch statement. Define switch, return switcher.get invalid value. You know, I'm not too familiar with the switch statement. Let's get it here. Let's see what happens. And we'll print it. Print switch 0. If we run it, it prints 0. Because it's the 0th element is equal to 0. Let's ask it. I'm just gonna, what is switch statement? I wish I can't really type today. Switch statement in Python. Okay. A switch statement is a control flow statement that allows a program to make decisions based on a set of conditions. It is used to execute code depending on the value of a given expression. In Python, a switch statement is replaced by a dictionary of functions or a series of if-elif statements. Okay, interesting. Let's see if it'll tell more. I never really used the switch statement, honestly. So it's good to know, I guess, but we'll continue to for loop. So now we are entering the territory of loops. We'll comment this out. So it's trying to explain that this is what a for loop looks like. So it says for I here is a variable that is being declared inside of the loop. So, and the range is starts from 0, and it's going to count from 0 up to 10, and it's going to print the value of I. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, not 10 because it's upper bound exclusive, so it's going to go up to 9. As you see, it prints 0 at first. Let's run it. Yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 9. If you were to say 100, then it will print up to 99. The cool thing about a for loop is that maybe you want to repeat an operation, say 100 times. Maybe you want to check something 100 times. So you can actually put your statement in here somewhere, write whatever you like, maybe run a function. In this case, we're just printing the value of I, and therefore it's pretty useful. Let's continue. This is a bit of a crash course, I guess, as far as how GPT really tells us how to do it. So while loops are interesting, let's come back here, put this in. So it assigns a value to I. It says I is 0, and then it says while I is less than 10, and currently it's just 0, print the I, and then it says increase the I by 1 in each iteration of the loop. That's what this plus equals do. You could have also said I equals I plus 1, which would do the exact same thing, because then in the first iteration I would be 0. Okay, it would print 0, and then it would say, okay, now the I is 0 plus 1, and then the I would be 1. It will go back to the beginning, and we'll check, is 1 less than 10? Yes, print 1, and then 1 plus 1, 2, now I is 2, and it will keep going until it's 10. Let's just go back to the original plus 1 implementation. If we were to run this, as you can see, let's run it again. You get 0 at first and up to 9, because once it reaches 9, it checks and it's less than 10, prints 9, and after that it turns into 10, and 10 is not less than 10. So this is how while loops work. Do while, I've never really used the do while loop, but let's check it out anyway. Here we go. It says do is not defined. Okay, so we'll skip that and maybe ask it to explain what is a do while loop in Python, which I never really needed to use. A do while loop in Python is a loop that is executed at least once, then will repeat the loop until the condition is false. It's a type of post-test loop. The syntax for a do while loop in Python is while, some Boolean expression. Booleans are true or false values, and then some statements. Do with the statements, while Boolean expressions. I've never used do while, so I'm just going to skip this, paste the rest of it, and we're almost at the 20-minute mark, but let's just see if it will tell us more stuff. It hadn't, and I know it feels like it had skipped, because we did say control flow. So the next one was going to be functions and modules. I'll make another video for that. I hope this was good. I know this wasn't greatest, but nevertheless, we can actually save this file, and you have examples of different data types and different flow and conditional statements, including for loops. I hope you enjoyed it, and take care. See you next time. Please leave comments for suggestions, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Thank you.